Dr. Farouk,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Do I need the mic? Or can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. I'll use the mic just to state my voice, but if you can hear me, it's fine. Good morning, everyone. It's a fine morning. It's a good, close group. I'm just going to hold on a bit. So, since it's such a small group, if you have any questions, any violent objections, or any comments, it's not a good presentation if nobody throws anything at me, that's what I always say. Please ask. Okay, it's an open discussion as opposed to just a presentation. Just a bit about me to start with. My name is Farouk Abdullah. I'm the Chief Data Scientist for NIS, National Intelligence Solutions. We're called National Intelligence Solutions, and our brand name is actually Loop, L-O-O-P-P, as you can see in most of the slides. I was born in Singapore. I lived in the UK for 32 years or so. I've been doing analytics since it was Microsoft 95 and Fortran programming and C++, if you remember all those. Before R and Python and everything else. Done a lot of work, things that I'm proud of on this slide, things that I'm not proud of are not here. Education level, done a whole bunch of funky things in my life. So, that's me. I've worked in Sky and Deloitte in the UK. I was the practice lead for analytics for Telecoms and Media as a Deloitte director. And a Bank of Scotland was an ex-banker before it all went belly up. Came to Malaysia 2 years ago, joined Astro for about 6 months, left. Became the chief data scientist. Sorry?
6 months left.
3 months I left, 3 months notice period, so 6 months left. Then I was a chief data scientist for Malaysia with MDAC for a year and a bit, and then now I'm with 10 minutes. NIS is a giant group of companies, as you know. So who are we? Just a very, very quick introduction. We are based in Singapore, Malaysia, and Philippines. We have about 35 employees. We consider ourselves a startup. We don't actually have a real office. We sort of share an office with someone else. In Philippines, we have most of our staffs there. We have data engineers, data visualizers, data scientists, full stack developers, front end, back end as well. So that's who we are. We go through business transform. That's a funky word for transformation. So we take our clients through the whole journey as opposed to just doing analytics or building models or doing boring stuff. And we have proprietary methodologies and approaches. Some of the things that you might be using that you don't know is actually run by us. We deliver multiple platforms. So we do digital marketing, retail analytics, local analytics, HR workforce. We look at technology exploration projects. You have the different wrong version of this. You have the abbreviated version of this. Yeah. Tourism, healthcare, we'll know when we go through it. Customer value management and exploration, so we do a lot of work on life sciences as well, genome, biometrics, and so on. So, I want to start with this exercise, if I may, so that everyone is a bit more energized. Usually it happens in a big group, so the small group we have to shout louder. Okay. This exercise is first level and second level learning. Have you experienced this before? No? Yeah. And it's the difference between reporting and insights. But there's also another reason why I'm doing this. And you'll know when you do it, then after that I'll explain to you why I'm doing it. Okay? So, very simple exercise. When I point in the first pass, I'm just going to point from left to right, and all we're going to do is read the word.
Okay.
Okay? So we all can read, right? Okay. Ready, steady, go.
Red, blue, black, green, blue, red, green, black, black, green, blue, red, green, black, red, blue, black, blue, green, red.
Easy?
Do the challenge.
Few words.
Getting there.
Yeah. So the next one, the next pass, same format, same speed, slides not changed, it's the color of the word, right? Okay? And you have to remember where you actually go blur, right? There'll be a point where you actually go, I don't want to talk about, right? Okay, just remember that, okay? Ready, go.
Blue, red, green, black, blue, red, red, blue, green, black, red, green, blue, black, black, green, blue.
Okay? Difficult?
Oh yeah.
In the morning, yeah. Yeah, we've got to engage our brain early in the morning.
Yeah.
So the difference is this, right? First level thinking is what you see, is reporting, right? If you use an analytics term, is reporting. You see what you say, what you see, as simple as that. Second level thinking is insights, which is you have to analyze it in your brain before you say it out, right? So your brain has to analyze it, and that's insight, right? The other thing as well is it shows me whether you're left brain or right brain. Because if you're in the business line, typically entrepreneurs, SMEs, corporates, right? You can't remember which side of the brain you are, but you're on the logical side, which means you read as opposed to see colors. And this is the truth, right? I did it with a bunch of artists, including my wife, who, someone's angry. Calm down. They can see the colors better than they can see the words. So when you ask them to read, they're waiting for colors, and then colors they find. So it's the other side, right? The other thing as well is that I've done this about 50 times already in Malaysia in all my talks. When I do it with university graduates, fresh university graduates, or at universities, from a color perspective, they go down right to the bottom level before they become blurred, right? From a corporate level, this is where corporates go blurred, right? This is where GLCs sort of go blur. This is where, sort of around this whole first, second line is where public sector folks go. So it goes even to your mentality, right? To what you're thinking. If you're used to doing the things that you're doing and not wanting to change, typically the first two lines is where you go blur. But if you keep your mind open, you will keep going right to the end. And typically the younger audiences go right to the end, unfortunately. Sad to say. Okay, so a bit of fun, a bit of thinking about getting your brain engaged and what you need to do next. So let's start with the stats as well. I like stats. You'll only remember 50% of what I'm going to say today immediately after the presentation, if you're lucky. Okay? 25% tomorrow, you'll say, oh, I met this guy, he did this, right? Out of the 94 slides, I only remember 10. And 10% next week. And that's usually what happens in presentations. So my job is to make you remember as much as possible today, so that you don't forget. And the week after, we're going to look at each other in the street and learn from someone. Yeah, that's usually what happens, right? Like I did this morning. Evolving business challenge. So before I talk about big data and analytics, we're going to talk about the evolving business challenge that we face now. We are living in a constantly changing consumer world. Consumer behaviors are changing constantly, including us. Right? We are behaving in a very different way as we did 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago. Okay? And because of that, there's an increasing volume of data because we're digitizing everything. So in the last 10 years, as we move from analog to digital, lots and lots of data are coming into play, right? And I can vouch for that because I profiled the Malaysian population about 3 times since I've been here, which includes students as well, if you're Malaysian. And there are more affordable technologies than ever. So, 10 gigabyte storage in AWS is about 6 cents, 6 Malaysian cents, right? So it's relatively cheap. And lots of things are free right now. New business applications of data. So data is not just used in the old way of reporting and telling you what happened yesterday. Data now is real time, right? Drilling companies are looking at T-minus 8 hours before a drill gets stuck. In those days, it was T-minus 30 seconds and they couldn't stop the drill. Okay? New ways of servicing our customers. So we have to think of the one-click purchases, the real-time recommendations, the instant rewards, right? The real-time notifications, because loyalty points are kind of dead right now. Nobody collects points anymore. People want instant gratification, right? If I buy something, I want something rewarded quickly. Okay? And then it then drives the consumer changing world again, and it drives the increasing volume of data, increases cheaper technologies, and so on and so forth. So this wheel, actually, if you look at Industry 1.0, took 150 years. Industry 2.0 took 75 years. Industry 3.0 took about 30 years. Industry 4.0, which we're in now, some suggest is about 15 years before we go into Industry 5.0. We're in a cyber-physical world right now. And God knows what's going to be 5.0. Right? So this is going faster and faster and faster, okay? And because of that, we need to evolve our business quicker. And data analytics is very, very important in today's world to get you to the next step. Okay? So, some interesting facts. Okay? For those of us who remember 1983, I do, Sheena Easton, called you on the telephone. Today's smartphone has the same computing power as the whole of the US government in 1983. Okay, so what you have in your hands right now or in your pockets has the same computing power as that. 3D printing is the only technology that the more complex the component is, the cheaper it is to make. Right? The future of 3D printing is that we'll have 3D printers all in our house or centralized location, where if you buy a Tupperware, they'll print it for you. In fact, if you buy a wrench, they'll print it for you. In fact, now we want to buy a car, they'll print it for you as well. Print a car within 3 hours. Google driverless car has now done more than 750,000 miles with one accident. I have to say that. No human can achieve this. The one accident was actually a Volvo car, not the Google car, just to be clear. Changes in autonomous cars mean that my 3-year-old son won't have to have a driving license, right? And he won't have to do it. In fact, property prices will be affected tremendously. Right? Public transport, the whole life will change tremendously. By 2020, solar panels will have changed 3,000 times relative to the price of coal. We don't need coal power stations anymore. So, Petronas, we have a problem right now. Right? I don't know what they're digging for, apart from oil and gas. And today, the average lifespan of an S&P 500 company has gone from 6 to 7 years to 12 years. So companies' lifespan is shorter. Yeah? Big, large multinational companies, lifespan shorter. Companies get to the billion-dollar unicorn, whatever you want to call it, quicker. Right? Kodak took 25 years, what Facebook did in 3. Okay? So because of all that, we live in the age of disruption. Okay? So the age of disruption is quite simple. This is taken from Salim Ismail's book, Exponential Organization. If you've not read it, read it. He's launching a second book tonight at midnight, because we live in Malaysia. It's 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So I'm joining the webinar tonight, which is quite interesting. Basically what he's saying is this is your linear growth organizations, and we design our organizations for linear growth. We don't design our organization for exponential growth. Right? You need to design the organization for exponential growth, primarily because there are organizations out there that are designed for exponential growth. And if you don't, what happens is in traditional organizations, you'll find a point of inflection, which means someone will take you out of business, or a group of companies will take you out of business, which means that these industries over here are primed for disruption. And these are the reasons why, or indicators of your industry being going to be disrupted, right? One is large volume of data available. If your industry is dealing with large volumes of data, then you are going to be disrupted. Cheap information and operational technologies, unfortunately, this is for everyone. Everyone is facing cheap. We're all getting cheap technologies. There's no, somebody gets a discount and other people don't. Everyone gets that same access to all that. Advanced analytics techniques, believe me, there are very, very advanced analytics techniques right now. You can develop, a lot of people have developed TensorFlow programs at home on their own laptops to recognize the facial recognition of your wife for some reason. So every time the wife walks past the laptop does something.
Shut up.
Yeah, turn the web page. Right? And it's a market ready, right? If your market is ready for change, financial institutions, for example, we are ready for change, right? Boring stuff, doing the same thing over and over again. Or deregulation or no regulatory body. So if your organization or your company operates in an area where there is no regulation or regulatory body, then you need to start panicking a bit. And there's loads. HR, for example. If you're dealing with HR, there's no regulation or regulatory body. If you deal with common spaces, office spaces, there's no regulation or deregulatory bodies or regulatory bodies. If you deal with, there's a whole host of things that we don't think of, like web hailing and so on and so forth, which have no regulation or regulatory bodies. Then you're primed for disruption. Because we build our business in a traditional business model, so this is a typical business model that every one of us do, right? So we have a product or a service, and startups and SMEs and entrepreneurs do this. I've got something that I want to provide, okay? I then put legal boundaries around it. I'm the only supplier of this kind of screws in the whole of Malaysia. No one else can get it, right? I'm the only supplier of abalone from Australia. I'm the only provider of wine from Australia, for example. I don't know why everything's from Australia. But that's the legal boundaries that we form around it, right? We then do sell access to the product services. Correct? So that's what we do. Then we have regulation that is around it. So health and safety regulation, food safety standards, and so on and so forth. So entrepreneurs and SMEs now, when you're starting up their business, they cannot think like this. Because if you think like this, then you are going to go through a linear growth. Right? So when you think of all the businesses out there like Uber, whose APIs are open, how do you think Grab? got the codes to build what they built. We look at Google, right? We can name Bing, if you remember Bing. Ask Jeeves, if you remember Ask Jeeves, old enough? Yeah, all that gone, right? But you can have the Google codes to create Google again. So none of the new organizations that you see right now that are making billions and millions and billions of dollars follow this. You can have access to it. Obviously, to Facebook's detriment, Cambridge Analytica took the data and did something not right with it, but you don't have to have this. Yeah? So, and the reason why we built that is that David Rose is a serial entrepreneur, a bit of a critique as well. He says that any company designed for success in the 20th century is doomed to fail in the 21st century. Okay? Because we build our companies with resilience, predictability, status quo, efficiency, and profitable. And then what we do is we create a whole immune system. So we can't change. And I'm not talking about large banks like Maybank or anything like that. I'm talking about the small entrepreneur who started their business doing something and then says, I've now got this immune system and no one else can change this business model for me. This is how it's going to work. And we've seen organizations through the years still have that kind of model and thinking, right? And the immune system stops everything from changing. And unfortunately, one of the things that they stop is data and analytics and digitization. So if you are in the timber distribution business, everything is still on paper, right? Invoices are still on paper, for example, right? So this is something that we need to think, and large organizations have done that. People like Amazon. Amazon is a retailer. What they've done is they've created Amazon Web Services. It was from an idea from an employee. But Amazon has this policy that if any employee come up with any ideas, management have to write a 2-page report on why that is a bad idea or why that idea is rejected. If you don't write a 2-page report, then that idea is going to be pushed through for funding. Amazon Web Services is called that. Okay? So these are the things that we kind of need to think about before we take on data analytics. Now, why am I not talking about data analytics? Because data analytics is actually the easy bit. The hardest bit, in my experience, in working with a lot of organizations, small, large, startups, multinationals, is that they cannot think in the way that I've just described them, which is, I'm going to be disrupted, I've got a whole business model, I've got a huge immune system. If you don't have all that, if you have any of that, or all three, then you won't be able to adopt data analytics. Because to adopt data analytics, we have to change the way we think of products and services. Just indulge me on this. What does Uber do? Taxi, ride-hailing services. Waze, navigation, Airbnb, accommodation, Google. Googling. It's a verb now, isn't it? Google do Googling. Yeah. Facebook, social media, Alipay, rule the world. But what if I say that's all wrong? What if I say that's not what they do? What do you think they do? Data collection. Their main objective and purpose in life is to collect data. Right? That's all their purpose in life. Nothing else. Facebook don't care where you ate, where you fun lunch, or whether you have a 10-year anniversary or what happened to you 7 years ago, as you think they do, they care. Or made a video of you or doing something funny in the last year. They don't care about that. Waze don't care if you get to your location or not, to be honest with you. Whether you drive to a river or a street or whatever, right? In fact, it's all by Google already. The main priority is that they want to collect data. If you're with an Android phone, right? Android phone collects data even if your phone is not activated. It collects 100 times more data than an iOS phone. I've got an iOS phone, but that's a fact. It's a fact. So when your phone's not on, when it's lying on the table, it's collecting more data than when it's on. Okay? So everyone's collecting data about you constantly, right? So if you think of your own business model, whatever that business model is, renting space, timber, whatever it is, how are you actually collecting data? Because that should be your main purpose in life. Selling that product is almost secondary to primarily collecting data. And that's what we take our clients on that journey. Is that, we work with biomedical equipment suppliers, right? And they say, oh, we provide heart defibrillators. I say, great. How many did you sell last month? 100. Who's using it? How are they using it? Don't know. Do they need service? When's the next service? Don't know. That's a manufacturer's problem. Right? When there's a problem, what do? When they phone you, we show them to the manufacturer. So you're not collecting where you have the opportunity to collect the data. You're not collecting the data. So it's very important to think of your products, and it's difficult to think of your product services as secondary. Right? As the old business model of developing this legal systems and thing as secondary. Your main primary objective in life is to collect data, because the primary objective of all these people is to collect data. Okay? Next, product services have to change because drones are out. Okay? The US did more drone strike in the Middle East in the last 12 months than ever in history. Right? They killed about 3,000 people with drones. Drones, and not the US. Drones are able to carry up to 4 kilograms now. By the end of the year, it's going to be 8 kilograms, and by the middle of next year, it's 24 kilograms. So if a drone can carry my 3-year-old child, in fact, my 7-year-old child, we can send him to school, right? Drone, right? I'm not talking about 100 feet off the ground, 80 feet off the ground. Yeah? So how is that going to change your business? And you might think, oh, well, it's not here, it's not in Malaysia, it's not going to happen. But it is. Yeah? And then you have electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. How is that going to change our lives? How is that going to work? Okay? We need to think about it now, because the cycle that I was talking about is getting faster and faster. Okay? Europe has banned all petrol and diesel cars by 2020, all electric. Yeah? By 2023, all of Singapore's fleet of buses, public buses, are either autonomous or electric. So they are stopping, in Singapore you get the CEO or CEO, yeah, Certificate of Entitlement, COE, yeah, and that is going to be, they're going to stop it for petrol and diesel cars by 2020. Actually, they're stopping it now. Okay, and if you heard of Google Loon, Project Loon? Project Loon is where Google wants to give free Wi-Fi to everyone. Why? Not because they want everyone to have Wi-Fi, it's because they want data. Okay? So they float balloons up in the stratosphere and give free Wi-Fi to everyone. So they've started this in lots of parts of Africa and South America, primarily because of the infrastructure to provide Wi-Fi or broadband services. So they floated this out. Now, what's going to happen to our local service providers? Why would you need to subscribe to anyone else? Okay? Massive disruption. Okay? You get Wi-Fi everywhere for free. Anyway, I don't use voice anymore. So why do I need a telephone provider? So these are the kind of things that you got to think about. One is that your organization has to be data driven, which means that it has to be thinking about how to collect, how to use, how to make best use of data. And then the product is secondary. And then the other thing is you need to think of the new things that's happening in the world that could happen to you. Or in fact, you could be the instigator. You could be the disruptor for Malaysia. Yeah? So that means we have to change our mindset towards customers. And this is a list of things that you have to move from to, right? We are very transactional focused. We count number of products we sell, number of events we organize, number of seats we cover in I was what I call this commune, in common ground. We do market segmentation and mass marketing and common messaging, right? This is our target audience, this is our target. If you talk to any brand strategist, especially the traditional one, they form all these kind of things, right? This is your target audience, this is what they look like. You know, Kiki with 2 dogs and love to eat sushi lives in KL, which is fantastic. But how do you find Kiki with 2 dogs and loves to eat sushi, right? Common messaging, reactive service culture and product services push. This is predominantly in Southeast Asia. I find that coming from the UK, we have a reactive service culture and a product service push, which means we create something and then we force it down somebody's throat, either legally, which means if you don't do it, you get caught, you get arrested, you get sent to jail, or we have a reactive service culture. So I work with a large Malaysian car manufacturing company, and they say that, I say, what happens if you find a component is faulty? Do you phone your customers and tell them? They say, no, wait for them to phone us. So, you know, poor guy stuck in the NKV, chucking down the rain, going back from work, knowing that the component is faulty anyway. So we need to have a proactive service culture, right? And then we have this bit here is customer value focus on financial gain. So how much money can we make from the customers, not what's the best customer experience we can give. Disconnected multiple sales channels, which means that our sales staff and our marketing staff and our operations all don't talk the same language. They say different things. We know that, right? You go to any telco, you sign up for something, you phone them, they say they don't know what you sign up for, and then the service guys think that you have a different phone than what you have. And then the business KPI focus. So we are always driven with business, but not customer focus. The newer organizations think about customers, okay? So this is where you have to move to, which is service orientated. So what services are you providing your clients? How proactive are you in that service culture? Okay? Your products and services, they must want to use it. And that's very, very important. If people don't want to use your products, then there's no point trying to push it to get it legally bounded to you. Total customer value management, omni-channel sales, one thing, KPI focus, customer KPI focus. This is moving your business. This is the old model of moving your business from product services to actually focusing on your customers and shifting it that way. Yeah. So it seems like an easy thing, but when you think through your business on a day-to-day basis, now I have to think of data collection. I have to think of the customers instead of, as well as thinking of my products and services. Okay, which is a different ball game altogether. Which means you have to engage second-level thinking. You have to see the colors, not the words anymore. Okay, and then our attitude towards data must change. This is my favorite. Data has been paying my mortgage for the last 20 years. Okay, data is used to provide or disprove, proof or disprove gut feel. That's used to be what happens, right? I think we can expand into China. Go and prove it for me when there's a market there. Yeah. Data is an output of a process. Let's create a process. Let's get someone to fill in this form. What form? Don't know. IC number, mother's name, sister's name, everything. Right? You apply for a job in Malaysia, they ask you everything. Everything about you. Why? Don't know. We'll just file it. Yeah? Process data when we need it. Oh, we need accountants are special people in my life. They always get surprised with month end. You know, you phone the finance department, hey, can you do this for me? No, it's month end. Did you not know it's month end 2 weeks ago? Comes every month. Yeah? Danger is when it comes month end, quarter end, year end at the same time, right? They don't. Data teams are geeks in a corner. Believe that data is an asset. Data is always an asset. It's an asset. And then data management is seen as IT's job. It's technical. Yeah? Today's world, it's about data is now leads business decisions. A lot of the Facebook does roughly about 200 A/B testing on their sites every day. Waze does that as well. In fact, my wife's Waze was a different version from mine, and we couldn't figure out why. And then we just A/B tested it. Yeah? Data is the product. See the app that you're clicking on right now? It's just a cluster of algorithms. That's all it is. There's nothing special about it. A cluster of algorithms and codes. It is the product right now. Yeah. Data is stored in an orderly manner, which means you get your data organized before you need to use it. It's prepping your data and organizing in the right way before you use it. Okay. Let me give you an analogy. Let me just indulge me on this. Malaysians like food, right? Including me. Yeah. We like our food. So think about your fridge at home, right? Think about your fridge at home, right? Now you open your fridge. What's in your fridge at home? Milk, eggs, vegetables, vegetarian? Right? Random things, sausage, maybe you've got salami kicking around somewhere in the back of the fridge, right? If I said to you, I want you to make me char kway teow, can you do it? Nope. What do you have to do? Go get ingredients, right? Yeah? But if I force you to do it, you'll probably come up with something quite random, probably a randomized omelette. Yeah? So, this is what I mean by data is stored in an orderly manner. That ingredients is your data. Yeah? Your fridge is your data storage system. That's what it is, right? You got some data in the fridge, some data in some ingredients in the cupboard, some ingredients everywhere. Right? You wouldn't know what you can make with that data if you didn't organize it properly, or didn't check the inventory, or write whatever you want to write about it, or record what it is, right? Primarily because you just chuck it into the fridge, right? So that's how you're treating your data right now. There's a bunch of ingredients in your data warehouse that you don't actually know what's in that, what you can make out of it, and so on and so forth. You then pay an expensive consultant to come in and say, hey, I want you to make char kway teow for me. And what happens? They say, no, we can't make char kway teow, or there's an honest consultant. Not all of them are. They'll say, yeah, we'll make char kway teow for you, right? 3 months project, 3 million ringgit later, no char kway teow. What happened? Because you don't have the ingredients. So always know what data you have, how is it stored, how you can use it, which means that you need to drive your business in data form, which means that your data teams are the most valuable people in the organization. If it's not you, it's someone else, it's the most valuable, right? Then you realize the value of the asset. Don't just have an asset. Property is another example in Malaysia. A lot of people have lots of properties. 5 houses here, 6 houses there. Property market is stagnant. Is that an asset or liability? You only realize the asset if you sell it. Yeah? Data management is everyone's responsibility. So this is where I look at leaders, owner, managers, SMEs of SMEs and entrepreneurs. That it is your problem. It's not IT's problem, it's not somebody else's problem, it's your problem. If you're going from Series A funding to Series B funding, from startup, seed funding, and you're going up that way, and you're going for an IPO, all the investors will ask for data. Give me your report, give me your last month's performance, give me your, all that is data driven. Okay? And any questions or thoughts so far? No? So,
Ask about
yeah.
the data, yeah. You said it's like ingredient in the fridge.
Mm.
It's there, but you don't know how to. How do you get access to that data and make use of it?
So you need to know what you want to make first, right? So it always starts with what do you want to cook first, right? What's your, which I get to later on. What is your business strategy? What is your, what is it that you want to become as an organization, right? Do you want to become the biggest in Malaysia, the most expensive in Malaysia, the cheapest in Malaysia, the most value for money in Malaysia, the most expensive as in, only certain clients to get to, unique? What is it that you want to be, right? What does common ground want to be, right? I want to be in every building in Malaysia. Then that's what you want to cook. Your ingredients will be different. Your motivations will be different. Then your data collection will be different. If you want to be the most packed in Malaysia, which means that I only have 5, but I get recurring revenue every month, and my place is absolutely ranked in the hill, which means I have a waiting list. Then you play price, right? Because the demand outstrips supply. Yeah. Then you play on price, which means your data collection is different. Right? So what is it that you want to be, or what do you want to cook is very, very important. And then you staying on with this, using this food analogy to death, then you can either learn how to cook it yourself, which means you look at YouTube recipe books and do it yourself, or you get a chef in to help you do it, right? Okay, well, I'll come back to that one. So, what is big data, right? Big data, in the correct term definition, is a collection of data that is so huge, right, so fast, and inaccurate or unreliable, that we need special tools to store, process, and manage and process it, and that is big data. So, anybody asks you what big data is? It is actually a data that's too big, too fast, or very inaccurate, so sometimes it goes this way, sometimes it goes that way, and you need special tools to store and manage it, right? And the definitions usually go through the 3 V's. Anybody who's done marketing degrees will know the 5 P's, 3 P's of marketing, 5 P, 7 P. Harvard has now come up with 11 P's. Okay? Big data is the same. You've got 3 V's, 5 V's, 7 V's, 9 V's. Okay? But the main 3 V's are volume, velocity, and price, which means large amount of data, usually in gigabyte. Velocity, speed of data in collection and transfer, which means there's a lot of data coming in and out very quickly. And then the veracity, so inaccurate or inconsistent data. Okay? Which means that examples are like a jet engine on a 30-minute flight will produce roughly about 27 terabytes of data. That's big data. Okay? A drill bit, drilling, oil and gas drilling, right? For every meter, it can produce up to 10 terabytes of data of drilling. That's big data because it comes in huge, fast, and it's erratic, depending on what's happening. Right? So in a lot of organizations that I've worked in, you don't actually deal with big data. You deal with data. And size is relative, as you know, guys. When I started out, it was big data. And that was Microsoft Excel had 69,000 rows, right? Roughly 68, 73, whatever. Right? And now it's big data, but Excel has 1 million rows. And Excel is going to go 2.5 million apparently in the future. And that's going to be big data. So for me, data is data, essentially. But you have to assess the data that you get in your organization. If you sell kitchen, for example, it's not going to be big data. It's never going to be big data, right? But if you sell kitchen and you have a facial recognition system in the client's house to record your workers and who's walking around and who's doing what work, it becomes big data. So it's not by organization, it's how your organization collects the correct data. Okay? So that's big data. Data science. What is data science? What is this? Data science is this. So everyone says, I want to be a data scientist. And then I say, okay, what is data science, right? So let me explain this diagram to you. It's actually quite simple. Over in the middle here, the red circle is KDD, which is knowledge database discovery, which is what we do all the time. We look at data, we dig into data, we do what we do, right? This bit in the middle, okay? We start with data mining, which means you look at or you dig into data where there's a big database and you mine the data, which means you look at what data you have, what quality of data you have, how you want to use it, and how is it stored, how is it arranged, are the date formats all the same, that's all data mining here. Okay? You then have databases and data processing. This is when you take all your ingredients and you start organizing your fridge, to use that analogy again, right? So you say this data goes here, that data goes there, ketchup can be in the fridge, can be in the cupboard, right? So that's here. Okay? And then you start visualizing it, right? Some fancy houses have all this food and everything all very nice, right? All their pots and pans laid out all very nicely. That's visualization, which means that you start visualizing what data that you have in your database. And then you go into statistics, which means that you look at statistics and you say, you know, if this happens, typically that will happen as well. Okay, very simple statistics. And then you go into pattern recognition, which means that if this continues to happen, what's going to happen next? You go into prediction. Okay? And then you reach this neurocomputing AI machine learning. Neurocomputing means that it connects different dots where dots are not naturally connected. So, for example, if you used to say, I only can analyze if I'm delivering something, the truck, the type of driver, and road conditions. But now with neurocomputing, you can add that type of driver, type of truck, where the brakes are made, whether the brakes are, you know, if you're looking at maintenance, the tires, who your suppliers for the tires, the weather conditions, the road conditions. So neurocomputing starts connecting a lot more dots than what it used to be. The human mind can only process typically 2 axes, right? X and Y. You add a Z, everyone gets it, right? Neurocomputing can do a lot more. Machine learning means that the machine changes the parameters as the parameters change. So if it needs to add another parameter, it will add another parameter. Right? So weather wasn't a factor initially, and then weather became a factor, machine learning will pick that outcome and use it in analysis. Artificial intelligence is when they make the decisions for you. So it's not just telling you that something has happened, it will then change the conditions in which you operate in. That's AI. There's a lot of AI applications right now that we're not aware of, but it actually happens. Facial recognition is an AI application, primarily, because you can't machine learn everybody's face. That's impossible, which means you have to scan 6 billion people in the world to machine learn them, right? But AI means that if you've got 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth, roughly in these locations, eyebrows, right? Ears in roughly this location, then that's what it is. But able to recognize who it is as well. But the important thing about all this is the outside ring, right? Which is you also need communications and domain knowledge and problem solving skills and business analysis and business strategy, right? Which is where we all sort of come in. Because this middle bit actually is like a holy grail, right? There isn't one person in the world that has everything, right? It's usually someone specialized in certain things. So if you're looking for a data person in your organization, you have to look at, oh, is it going to be a data mining person, is it going to be a visualization person, or is it going to be like a data science person? Okay? Any questions on this?
So it's like it's very interesting, but sounds very costly as well.
No, it's not. It's not actually. No, it's not. Obviously, if you go to the IBM, which KPI in USD and GBP is going to be a problem. But if you come to, you know,
NIS?
sorry?
So NIS is more friendly.
We're friendly. We always pride ourselves with helping local businesses. Believe it or not, a lot of things that we do are actually free, right? To the point of value creation, which means if you don't create value for you, we don't get paid, right? I also pride myself on employing locals because I believe you have to bring out the local talent. So in the Philippines, we deliver Philippines project, Filipinos are there. In Singapore, it's Singaporeans. In Malaysia, it's Malaysians, right? So we believe in local talent. So when you have local talent, you pay at local rates, then it's equivalent to what your business is, and then it's not going to be burnt purpose, right? So we don't charge the.
So you mentioned about data mining. Is it possible to buy data as well?
Yeah, you typically companies don't sell data; they sell the insights from data. So if you went to a company that does media, for example, they won't sell you the customer information. They will sell you how many people viewed what at what time, kind of thing. But you'll be surprised that a lot of data is free in Malaysia. So that's why I can profile in Malaysia 3 times in a row, right? Because all the data that I get about all you guys are actually free. Census data, which is free-ish, 500 ringgit, I think. So I can use census data, then I can use post-Malaysia data, which means I know all the addresses. I get my team to do web scraping, which means I know all the locations of retail stores, because like Common Ground has your address on the website, right? So there's a lot of information there. So I can plot the whole of Malaysian landscape houses, retail, small commercial, large commercial industry, if they're on the website or on the census, straight away. So there's a lot of data out there. Sorry? Dangerous of money, yeah. If you have ill intentions. Yeah. But you know, surprisingly, we can't do much with that information because we don't know the individuals. You know areas, you know, like, you know, TTDI area, what is it predominantly, whether it's affluent, less affluent. But that's about it. Unless you go down to the level of going into company data, then it becomes dangerous. So if you get, say for example, Tenagas data, where you know the usage of electricity in every house, then you start drilling down, or you have Astro's data, then you start drilling down into individual households, and then it becomes dangerous. But surprisingly, you know, we think of our local companies and say, oh, they collect data and it's dangerous. But like I say, Google is collecting data all the time, Facebook, Waze. Yeah. Everything is being tracked anyway.
You mentioned something about selling data. When you have telco companies, for example, you get a random text message from somewhere, buy this, and I'm wondering, how do they get my number, or how do they know who I am?
Yeah, that's when you sign up to some sort of loyalty program or something somewhere, and you didn't take the marketing, I don't want to be marketed box. That's when you give your data away. So you see, we are always looking at telcos, for example, and say, oh yeah, telcos are collecting data all the time, Google collecting data all the time. But when we register for something, we give all our information away. You know, when I first arrived in Malaysia, I like sushi, I went to Sushi Tei, he says, you want a membership card? I said, great, give me a form. Everything was there. I said, I'm not giving you that information, I'm not giving you that information, I'm not giving you that information. Mother's name, date of birth, yeah. Say for passport. Yeah, Sushi Tei. Yeah. And then they asked me for passport number. I said, why you take me on holiday or something? He said, because you're not Malaysian, you don't have IC. I said, even if you, why you want my IC number? What is it? Right? So it's that kind of thing. We actually give out a lot of information. We fill in surveys, competitions, all that is all information. And someone's collecting it. So maturity stages of data analytics. This is just for a FYI if you want to look at it that way. You have data engineering at the bottom here. You have data visualization in the middle here, and then you have data science at the top here. And at the bottom here is data engineering. So is your data accurate, complete, and clean? And typically this is called data management. And this is the job of a data engineer, typically. Over here you have sort of forensics. So what happened, how many, how often. So here you have standard reports, ad hoc reports, query drill downs, and this is really dealing with the data, right? And this is the data visualization team that usually does. So your BI, MI, and we call it business intelligence, management intelligence is here data visualization. And then you have the analyze, which is what exactly is the problem and what needs attention. Okay? So is it alerts or statistical analysis? So for drilling, for example, there will be an alert if there's going to be a problem, yeah, for drilling. And then we go into solutions. So forecasting, predictive modeling, and optimization. So do you act on it, or and how do you become proactive? So you move from being reactive to something to proactive. Something's not happening, what do we do about it? Right? So this goes into the data science world. But you need to move out that region. Okay? Some people like to jump and say, hey, I want to do this. A lot of large organizations do that. And then they work backwards and say, hey, ingredients are not there. The data management is not right. You'll be surprised at how even large organizations don't have their data in the right form.
Yeah.
Don't collect it correctly and so on. Surprised.
So NIS will be consulting what kind of data do you focus on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's 4 stages of, which I didn't put in the slides, but there are 4 stages of data. So you got to capture, it's called the 4 C's. Capture, cleanse, compartmentalize, which is storage and use, and then care. So we go through that process. We say what data are you capturing, what data, how are you storing it, and then on top of that we're working with the business leaders to say what actually that you want to do with your business. You know, if you want to make something and then you don't have the ingredients, can't work. And when it can't work, we'll tell you it can't work. We're not going to force it. So these are just some of the things. I know it's a busy slide, but we'll print the slides out and you can have a read of it. These are the different steps within data assessment and preparation that we typically do. So we do data profiling, data quality assessment, data cleansing, and data integration. And this is actually the 70% of all analytics work start with this effort, right? So data profiling is inventory testing, existing data source, and so on and so forth. You can read through this. So what is the state of your data, your quality assessment? Data cleansing is how do we clean your data? Data needs cleaned, okay? And then data integration, how do you integrate it into one single component? Okay? And I'll give you a very, very simple example, right? If you have a website, and your website collects age data, okay? So you say, I want to collect customers' age. So there's a field there on your website that says age, okay? What are the things that you have to consider if you collect age for that field? Cannot be 3 numbers. Somebody's 100 plus years old. There are people out there right now that are, but you don't want it 3, right? You don't want to have single digits either. You know, a 9-year-old. You have a range. So anyone who keys in anything below 80, hopefully you don't collect that information. You then say you don't want alphabets in it, so it has to be numeric. Somebody can type in random things, right? So it's controlled, right? And then as you, that's the capture bit, right? Then as you cleanse, there's nothing to cleanse because the date, it's a date. So someone who's 42 is 42, right? But at the use side, there's nothing to use because if I want to cluster customers who are 42, I'll just cluster it. At the care side, I have to do something with it every year, right? Because all of us get old every year, older every year. So then next year will be 43, next year will be 44, next year will be. So there's a bit of a care bit. So that's what we mean by data cleansing. An alternative is that you put date of birth. Date of birth has a whole set of other problems, which means that at capture, you have to make sure that it's all day, month, year. Yeah? And then you have to have a date range, so you cannot have anyone less than whatever date and more than whatever date is, right? Here, right? And use is even more difficult because you have to then take today's date minus that date to get the customer's age. Okay? But at the care bit, it's easy because it's just date. So just simple fields like that where you're collecting information that you need to figure out. That's how this comes in. Right? So what is your business objectives, what data are you collecting, how are you collecting it, how are you cleaning it, how are you integrating it, which is very important. Because over here are definitions of what it means, right? So I take comfort that I can safely say no organization in the world has done all of this to completeness, which means that there's always going to be a job for you. And then you have the data warehouse implementation, which means that we need to store your data somewhere. Okay. So we do the business value and data architecture, data warehouse design, build development, data analytics, and then dashboard and reporting. So a lot of people go to this straight away and forget about the first bit. They forgot about this bit. Right? They say, I want to do this straight away. Some people say, I want to build a data warehouse. And they say, oh great, build a data warehouse. But have you done this? They were like, no. I said, you need to do this. They say, you just want more money from me. I said, no, you need to do this. Not because I want more money from you. It's because what are you putting in your warehouse, right? So it's important to do the first bit, and then we do the second bit. So the second bit, usually data warehouse business value analysis, logical, physical data architecture and so on and so forth has to be built correctly. You don't have to have one repository, you can have many databases, but you need to build the whole cluster, the whole solution architecture correctly. Right? You don't build a house and then put your bedroom downstairs, your living room, well, some people's houses are like that, but you know, your main door is upstairs, and, you know, and so on and so forth, right? You got to build it in a certain way correctly.
How do you do the integration? Previous slide. Data integration. Every company has different types of
Data sources.
Yeah.
So we've built this methodology and tool, which can take in data from literally any source. So if you have a CSV file, an Excel file, real-time batch feed, if you have a PDF, we have OCR functionalities that we can, say for example, a bank loan documents. So we're working with a bank in the Philippines. They need to scan their documents and then we identify all the data. So we can integrate data from literally any data sources into one form. You have to agree the structure first, of course, and this integrate. But we have tools and approaches that we use. You know, we are a data science company and we do data science, but actually only about 10% of our projects are data science. That's 50-60% of our projects are data. So, going back to Kennedy's question earlier on, if you've read The Art of War, if you haven't read it, strategy with tactics is slowest route to victory, right? But tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. So a lot of us always, as small business SMEs and entrepreneurs, we always think of tactics. What do we need to do next? What do we need to do next? What do we need to do next, right? What we don't think about is what is the strategy of my organization. Strategy nowadays is not a 5-year plan anymore, unfortunately. It's like a 12 months, 18 months plan. That's my strategy. My tactics is almost operational already. Right? My operational is what I do now. Gone are the days where operational is on a daily basis and tactics is, you know, on a 3-month basis and strategy is 5 years. It's too long. Yeah? The new generation is an amazing generation. I have a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old, just very quickly. My 12-year-old says he wants to be a YouTuber. He doesn't want to go to university, he wants to be a YouTuber. Collecting money to build a water-cooled CPU system, right? With GPU system at home, so they can become a YouTuber. My 7-year-old announced that he's going to be a hacker. Okay? He says, I'm going to be a hacker. A good hacker. He says, a white hacker. He says, great, right? So these are the new generation that's coming up, right? Which is, I'm not going to do engineering or medicine or stuff like that. I wish them well, hopefully they do well for themselves. So, the first step to leveraging data analytics is always getting the business questions right, which is what we were talking about earlier on, we touched on briefly earlier on. So, any models that you look at, and this is just a plethora, sample of models that's out there, right? So, you got, I've got all the sources there anyway, all the different sources, right? Every single model, every single program, every single course you go to, every single university you go to, every single data analytics modeling class you go to, the first thing they always ask you to do is, what is your business question? If you don't get the question right, then whatever you do after that is a business plan. Right? Because, remember Bono? Okay, you know Bono, yeah, it's good. Pro Bono. I did it in the university once and they were so he said this in the 80s, right, which is amazing. We thought we had answers, it was the questions that we had wrong, right? We always think of the answers first and not the questions. And I cannot stress, you know, enough that you really need to think of a business strategy and your business plans and where you want to go next. Because no amount of analytics can help you. A lot of companies say, hey, let's get analytics in, help us run a business. No. How do you want to run a business? Then analytics comes in to support it. Okay? So, this is one of the different tools that we use, which is a simplified version, obviously. You have your goals and objectives of your organizations at the top. We sort of changing the factors to business questions, right? So, from your goals and objectives, identify the drivers and factors that contribute towards achieving your goals. So, I want to be something, right? What are the factors that you need to take into consideration to become that thing? Okay, I want to be all over Malaysia. So what do you have to do to become a distributor across the whole of Malaysia? Okay. What are the indicators that you need to deliver to that factors? So what are the KPIs, as they like to call it in the business world? What are the indicators that you need to deliver against those factors? Okay. And then you look at your data points. So this is what we do, which is a Morse code exercise. Data you must have, data you should have, data you could have, and data you want. So data that you must have, which means your business will go bust if you don't have that data. What is it? Data you should have, data you could have, interchangeable, which means that this is the next step. If I don't have this, it's okay, but I still need it. Data you want, you go into disruptive, which means I'm looking and exploring new things right now. Okay? So that is the way we approach things, because then we do analytics. If we don't understand this bit here, then we can't do this bit, and we can't do that. Now this is solving for organization-wide, right? We solve for business, departments within businesses, same thing. Marketing. Marketing wants to do, what is the goal and objective of marketing, sales and marketing? What are the factors that determine it? What are your KPIs, sales target, marketing ROI, and so on and so forth? And then what are your data points that you have to collect things like, right? You can do in a particular slither of area as well. So you can say occupancy. What's your objective in occupancy, for example, or delivery times? So that's how we work this, is that you can go it from an organizational perspective, a department perspective, even a team perspective, or even in fact an individual perspective. Okay. Give you an example, a large organization in the UK where we did this exercise with them, there was only 5 at the top. Right? There was 5 goals and objectives. Okay? They want to be the best in customer experience. That was one of the objectives. And then what are the factors, the business questions that deliver that? Okay? How long does somebody call? How many times does somebody got to call you? It's a big business, people call it. How many calls do they receive a day? And then what are the KPIs? I want to receive not more than 1 million calls a week. I want to not have a customer call more than twice to resolve that problem. Okay? And then what are the data points you need to deliver against them? Customer calls, number of calls, and so on. So, second last slide, if you'd like to know. This is quite interesting. I had the opportunity to work under him at one point. The world is changing very fast. Big will not beat small anymore. And that's a fact. It is a fast beating the slow. So it doesn't mean that you're small, or you're small-ish, or you're medium, you were beaten by large organizations anymore. No way. 2 men who founded Uber, not bigger than our organization, right? Let's not talk about Elon Musk and Jack Ma and all this, right? 1 man and his band kind of thing. They took over the world. Right? So financial institutions in Malaysia are starting to shake a bit because there are a lot of companies that can come in and take it. And if you think that there isn't, then you're kidding yourself, right? Yeah. So the 5 steps for SMEs or any other organizations, to be honest. Basically, you start with your business strategy, right? Set your strategy and associated questions correctly. So make sure you have that factor, objectives, drivers, KPIs, and then your data points, right? Map that out. I mean, if you can't map a data point, you need to then decide the talent and support you need. So is it somebody I built internally to get someone in, or do I get an external person to come in and help me do that? And you'd be surprised that large organizations are having the same conversation with us, right? You think large organizations have an analytics team? No. Right? I work with massive multinational, I guess they're called GLCs in Malaysia, right? Monopolize the whole market. And I say, where's your data analytics team? These 2 guys come out from nowhere, right? And I say, you got 110,000 employees. Yeah, 2 data analytics. Yeah, so that's the thing. Tell them, data audit, start on conducting a data audit. Who's got your data? Where is it kept? Is it in a cupboard? Is it in the fridge? Is it on somebody's laptop? Usually. Yeah, where they kept? Most of the time, somebody's laptop. Yeah, bits of paper that finance file, HR file somewhere, right? All paper. Reporting. So create the reports that help answer some of the questions. So don't just create reports for the sake of telling you what happened last week, but more of how do I answer those business questions that I need answered. So the reports must help you do that. And then analytics, which is business decisions taken by analysis, which means that there are then things that you need to do, which is analysis or analytics, to help you get to where you need to get to. Which is in the triangle diagram, the arrow that goes back up. Okay, so in an hour, that was a whiz breeze through of There are obviously details of how you do it, like the 4Cs program, the Morse code methodologies, data integration methodologies, and so on and so forth, which you need to understand. Big data is really not as complicated as it sounds, and everybody likes to scare the hell out of everyone. Oh yeah, we need big data. Why? This is a quick story, right, about NASDAQ. The NASDAQ CEO went to their team, to his team, and he said, we want to use blockchain. Right? So NASDAQ transact 5 million transactions every hour or something like that, something crazy. So the CTO says, how the hell do we do blockchain? It's an unproven technology, and we can't roll it out to 5 million. So what they decided to do was they took one transaction in a single day, in one of the days, and they used blockchain technology for that one transaction. They then went back up to the CEO of NASDAQ and say, hey, we've used blockchain. So then the CEO can go to the press and say, NASDAQ now uses blockchain technology. Not talking about the fact that there is one transaction out of 5 million in an hour. And that's what's happening with big data, is that everybody wants to say they want big data. In reality, not many companies have big data. If you even think of Tenaga, they don't have big data. They are in an organization that can collect and generate big data, but they're not. They still got meter readers. That's big data for them.
Scattered.
Yeah. Very scattered. Yeah. 2,000 meter readers that you don't even know whether they enter the right data point or not. To start with, there's no verification. And it's not, it's everywhere. It's multiple systems. I think it's by state, by area or something. So you think your telcos have your data, big data? No. They have your viewing, your usage data on one platform, they have your customer data on the other platform, and they can't integrate it. So big data is almost like a scare tactics, right? In reality, we've not really seen big data. 50 gigs is big. If you have 50 gigs of data in our world of data science, it's almost verging on big. And we've never come across a client that's given us 50 gigs. We spoke to one client and said, oh, we got lots of data, okay. How do you transfer data to me? He took out his pen drive. And like, what? Oh, it's data. So, think about it and think of these steps. I think it's very important. Don't just delve into big data analytics. Think about what you want to do first and then go. Thank you very much. On time.